Okay. This week we are honored to have Jackie Lohr, a lifelong rice farmer in the Branch, Mowata area. Last year Jackie was elected to serve as chairman of the USA Rice Federation for 2 years. Jackie also serves as chairman of the Louisiana Rice Producers Group and is a past chair of the USA Rice Producers Group. He's a very highly respected leader within the rice industry. Please join me in welcoming Jackie as our guest speaker today.
Thank you. Good to be here. I have to bring my phone with me because I don't see a clock. I know when you guys get up, I know it's 1 o'clock because you got what to do, and we all do. It's good to be here today, and thanks for having me. It's an honor's mine, actually, to do this. I was been asked to come and explain the rice industry as it exists today. And what I didn't want to do is get bogged down in the agronomy of it, of what we put on it and the varieties and all this, because that's all way in the weeds and stuff that, like in your businesses, in your profession, there's more to it than meets the eye, and there's things that go on beyond what you see, just like in whether you're a doctor, a lawyer, or an Indian chief, or a banker. You guys know that we plant in March and April. And you know that the southern breezes flow over the grain fields during the summer, and then the sun and the water does its trick to get it to grow. As you know, in your particular profession that you're in, if you want to sit down with me or anybody and explain it to me, it can be very complicated and very complex. There's a lot more to it than just what you see, and as we smile and go through the things that go on that we have to deal with. I think farming generally, and rice farming in particular, is not any different. And of course change. We could talk about change the rest of the allotted time here, but we know there's been change. There's been a change in your profession, there's been a change in our profession. When I used to get up in the morning, actually, I mean when I got up in the morning, first thing I did was milk a cow, until I went to college. Get up, milk a cow. Now I get up and check the email and the markets. And you guys are probably like that. It's a 24/7 kind of thing, and it has changed. I explained planting rice this way, and it's not very much different in your profession. Although our product is rice, in your profession it's either services or a product or something like that. But what we do generally, we take money. We start with money. We buy rice. We buy seed rice. We buy fertilizer. We buy chemicals. We buy tractors. We buy labor. We buy all this stuff. We take money. We buy rice. We turn it into more rice, and we take that rice and turn it into money. Hopefully at the end we have more money than we started. That's the key. That's the key. So it's not much difference than the profession that you happen to be in. I can remember once, years ago, my in-laws were dairymen up in Kansas, and not that there's a lot of dairy around here, but just to show you it's not that much different than growing rice. It was a winter day, and the feed truck was backed up to the barn, because they fed the cows while they milked. They usually don't do it anymore, but they fed the cows while they milked, and the feed was up in the attic of the barn, and they'd drop it down to each place. Simultaneously, the truck that picked up milk backed up to the tank of the same barn and was picking up milk. So the feed was going in, the milk was coming out, and the cows were in the back. And it dawned on me right there, this is just a factory. You got the inputs, and you got the outputs, and you got a product to sell. And you do the deal to make it work. Not unlike bringing furniture in at a wholesale price and selling it at a retail price in furniture people. The only thing about rice, we buy at a retail price and sell at a wholesale price. Now you figure out how we can make it work. And we have issues that we have to deal with. All these things we have to do, we have to get up in the morning and do what we do, but there's issues that we still have to deal with. One is we have to have up-to-date science to make sure that what we do is the latest in variety, in disease control, in insect control, in weed control, in the economics of it, in marketing. That takes science. We need to regulate, we need to be engaged in how we're regulated. How we manage those regulations and how we comply with those regulations. Now you say, well, I can see that, because in all your jobs that you have regulations either with your employees or with your parking lot or with whatever. We have the same thing, and it's overwhelming, actually. We have to promote our product to ensure our markets. We have to make sure that happens. If you can't sell it, why grow it? We also have to have political activity involved because there is a safety net, which I'll explain later, for people that grow rice. And it's political activity is very important in sustaining that in a fashion that applies well to our profession. The other thing, and I'll be speaking a little bit more about this too, is what are the expectations in this new world we call sustainability? And you say, I heard a farmer use a long, big word, and you guys probably know what it means. We're just coming to understand what sustainability means, and I'll get to that in a minute. And also we have to ensure trade policy is designed at the national level so that we can keep our markets fair and open in the world. We also have our Louisiana Rice Grower Association, which is a specific commodity organization that deals only with that. Some of the problems we run into with Farm Bureau that and I'm not that active in it, I'm a member, I'm not that active because you can only have so many things on your plate. But you get involved with things, and this is good for rice, but maybe sugarcane doesn't like what we're doing because we want to export rice, but sugar doesn't want to import sugar. And you get all these trade-offs. So a lot of times what happens when you get in these general farm commodities, you don't necessarily get to promote your product on a national level because it gets stopped by other commodities within the state. So it's good to be part of Farm Bureau. They do a tremendous work for us, but there's a limited advantage to being just with Farm Bureau. So we, several years ago, started the Louisiana Rice Grower Association, which speaks only to rice as a commodity, and we develop it in that way. The other thing that is statewide is everybody, if you have a share of a crop, a rice crop, if your dad has some crops and you get a little bit part of it, if you get checked off for promotion on your sales, then you belong to the Louisiana Rice Council, just by virtue of the fact that you've contributed to it. You're an official member of the Rice Council, not by voluntary, but because you've paid it. You can get out of it if you don't want to. Say you don't want any of the mailings, but you're a member by paying it. And it is the organization that takes the checkoff funds from the promotion board and does sees to it that the promotion work is actually being done. And if anybody has any questions, we're here informally, and any questions, if you want to interrupt, raise your hand. We'll stop right there and deal with it, or at the end would be fine too. In research, we spend about, like I said, about $1.3 million, $1.4 million each year, and we contract with the Rice Research Station for specific projects. We have to stay on top of varieties. The research station in Crowley does an excellent job of developing varieties year after year. And I didn't say, but you all probably know, the 6 rice growing states are Louisiana, Texas, Mississippi, Arkansas, the Boot Heel of Missouri, and California around Sacramento and north. And California, if you land in Sacramento, you land in a rice field. I don't know if you've ever been there, but you land in a rice field. There's levees on each side. And very interesting. But they grow about as many acres as Louisiana does, a little bit more, but their production is quite a bit more. They've got topsoil about this deep. They've got ideal weather. They've got the California mentality. Everything's perfect in California, right? And but they do a real good job, and they grow a different class of rice actually. So it's a very high yielding rice. And we pool our state's promotional funds with the other states to have a promotional program that gets to use matching funds from the federal government for international promotion of rice. And we do this in several countries. We do it in Mexico, Central America, Colombia, Europe, countries in Africa, Ivory Coast, Saudi Arabia, Lebanon, even in, there was some South Africa promotion at one time. Canada's a big buyer. We do some promotion work in Canada. So, and then there's all the domestic programs that we have also that use these funds and try to leverage these funds for the maximum impact. You won't see us with an advertisement like Got Milk that you see all over the movie stars. If we would do that in 1 week in Chicago, we would probably decimate our whole year's budget. It's that expensive, but milk has a lot of money. And as you can appreciate, we have to leverage these funds to do the maximum exposure, which usually means influencing gatekeepers on rice, like institutional buyers and things like that.
Mr. Jackie, does this group also work to help the beginning farmer? Take a young farmer just out of college, young person out of college wanting to start a farm. He's got to come in, he's got 500 acres that he actually owns already. and he wants to purchase the equipment and begin his business as a farmer, and he doesn't have the benefit of having parents or grandparents in the farming industry.
Not on a national level. Not on a national level, and the state level. I think some of we in the Louisiana Rice Growers, we've just now, I think we're in our third year, have contributed to a project that the LSU Ag Center has, where they have high school young people that want to farm or get into agriculture, and they intern on a farm. You say, well, that's cheap labor. It's not. I mean, they follow the guy around and do this and this to get a sense of what it's all about, but to actually assist in maybe a loaning or how to and things like that. There's no program like that set up that I know of. Right. Now, there is once you get involved and get your feet down, we have a leadership program, but that's not a beginning farmer program, but a leadership program that if you're from 25 to 40 or 45, and you're usually it's about those guys that have to take their kids to T-ball, and we have a 2-year program for them. But that's to develop leaders in the rice industry, not necessarily how do you get started farming, which would be your particular concern.
If you're in that age group, 25 to 45, and wanted to enter the rice business, looking at it today in 2012 versus say 30 years ago, I mean the demands that are facing the industry now to get into the business, would you agree it would be a pretty huge hurdle for a person just trying to get in to cross just to make it a going concern?
Unless he married a rich girl. That would help.
Yeah.
A farmer's daughter.
Yeah.
A farmer's daughter. Not to be, but it takes a tremendous amount of fun. Most of these guys driving around that farm 700-800 acres of rice and stuff like that, they're running through $1 million a year. I mean, it's a lot of money in our world. It may not be in some of your business, but in our world, that's a lot of money. You probably heard the phrase back in '98, freedom to farm. And you got to plant whatever you went by the market, but you still got your payment. All that's going away. All that's going away. Because of the federal budget problem, and this is the first time we'll not have it. And when you take an industry that was used to something always, when you take that one thing out, things change. And I like to explain it like a finely tuned watch, not these digital ones we have, but the actual mechanical watches. If you ever open the back up, you see all these little wheels turning. And you say, oh, this little wheel's not important. This way over here and it's in the way, I'll just take it out. It just stops everything. Because every little thing is systematically important. And that subsidy was important. It's the way the whole industry was built. And by taking that out, it's going to be a retrenchment in the industry, and we're going to have some pains in figuring out how we're going to deal with this. What else? Trade policy. I was going to explain that just a little bit. Just one thing that's happening right now, I'm involved in on this board. Several years ago, the United States, just to let you know what some of the issues are that we have to deal with besides going out and planting the crop, pumping on it, and harvesting it, is that several years ago, Colombia and the United States entered into a free trade agreement. And in that agreement, which involved a whole lot of products in rice, and Colombia is a country that eats a lot of rice and needs a lot of rice and is deficient in the production of rice. But they don't buy much from the United States. Because they protect their farmers so much, they have an 80% duty on rice. If it costs $100 a ton, it does about $300-400 a ton. But if it costs $100 a ton to go in, they have to add $80 to sell it. They owe the government 80% of that 100 to the government. So that rice gets landed for $180 relatively.
Wow.
And a lot of countries have these tariffs on rice to keep rice out, so they keep the price high within the country. But they need this rice. So in this tariff agreement, it was agreed that 79,000 metric tons per year would go into Colombia duty-free. If you had a chance to sell something duty-free in a country, that's got to be worth something for you if everybody else has got to pay the 80% tariff. So to do that, within this free trade agreement, and it's agreed to on both sides, it's passed Congress, it's passed Colombia, and we're involved in it. We're going to pull this off, hopefully the first year by Christmas. We have 79,000 tons get to go in duty-free, milled rice equivalent. It can be rough or milled, but it's milled rice equivalent. And next year it'll be a little more until 18 years further down the road, duty-free 100%.